Used Furniture. The name speaks for itself. Phone 270-625-1005.
Friday morning, and welcome to Tiger Sports Talk with DT and Gator, sponsored by Trice Hughes Chevrolet. We're live here in the studio at WPKY on Tiger Sports Talk this morning. We got some outstanding guests lined up once again. Pretty long week, Dennis.
Yeah, when you said we're live, I'm glad you are.
Well,
where you been roaming
I've been gone for a week, and you know, when work calls, you got to go.
You can miss a lot of things, but when they call, you got to go. I was listening to the radio coming up here to Ty and heard one of my favorite old songs, Chuck Berry, Johnny Be Good, and all I could think of was Gator Be Good, and I knew you wouldn't.
I was good. I've been gone for a week to Las Vegas. We have our national sales convention. Rydell does out there, and had a great time. You know, a lot of work. You know, and a lot of information thrown at us, and you know, with the helmet safety and the safety of the football, it you know, we covered a lot of topics, and we've got a lot of new products that are fixing to hit the market again, and they introduced us to a lot of information.
You got to meet a fine man, too, didn't you?
We sure did, and, of course, we hired Peyton Manning as an ambassador for our company, and what a great man. I was able to introduce myself to him and meet him, and, you know, it was just a great opportunity, and he's just going to be an outstanding ambassador for our sport. And, you know, hearing him talk, and he had everyone's. We have over 260 reps nationwide, and, you know, you could have heard a pin drop in that auditorium when he got up to speak, and some of the stories that he told, how he started out in football, and, you know, with his dad, of course, Archie Manning, playing for a long time in the NFL, and of course he has a brother, Eli Manning, and you know, it was just really interesting hearing some of the stories, how they got started. I never realized that he never put on a football uniform until he was in the 7th grade. His dad wouldn't let him play youth league, and you know, and he had a basis for that. He felt like back at that time they didn't have coaches that were qualified to teach them the proper fundamentals, and also equipment was a big concern. You know, he wanted to make sure that their kids were outfitted properly, and you know, a lot of times, you know, back when we played, we just picked up a helmet, put it on. We could have turned it around, looked out the eye hole, if you know, on a lot of those situations. But he felt like that would be a bad experience, and all it takes is a bad experience for a kid not want to play this day and time.
Yeah, Bradley's here with us today, and we were talking earlier. For Little League equipment, most of that stuff was just hand-me-down, and from where it came from, hand-me-down, I don't know. But I know when I was Little League, and even to his era, that was a lot. You know, you just took what you could get a hold of, and luckily you kept kids out that wanted to play football because they had pants that hang down to their ankles, and then the pads that you put on didn't fit, and helmets didn't fit. And I know when of course, I have a little pea head anyway, but my dad took my helmet from when I was in high school and put foam rubber in it because we had those old, what do you call them, those kind of helmets. Didn't have any padding in them. They were just the
they just had the foam in them?
No foam. Have you even seen them? You're too young for that. All these older guys will know what I'm talking about. They were not, I don't know what they called them, but anyway.
It was leather helmets.
No, I've got one of them at home. But
you fold it up and put it in your back pocket.
This didn't have, it was just, they had this, I don't know what, hypnotic, I don't know. Anyway, it was, he had to put the foam in there to make it fit on my head. And as a matter of fact, that might be where they got the new helmets. I don't know.
Yeah. Of course, you know, our sport of football, you know, it is under a lot of criticism in this day and time. And, you know, we're, you know, teaming up with some new organizations. USA Football has really been great to the sport of football, especially down on the youth level, and Rydell's partner in with them, and you know, they give out a lot of equipment grants to youth leagues. I've got a couple of mine, good customers that are the Bud Hudson League. They're one of the oldest leagues, not just in the state of Kentucky, but in the United States. I didn't realize that. Of course, being from Hopkinsville, a lot of people you know, older people may remember Bud Hudson. He was big with Hopkinsville High School and Fleming Thornton back in the days, and he organized the first Little League program I know in the state of Kentucky, and I think they're coming up close to their 55th year in existence. And they were able to get a big equipment grant. And, you know, opportunities are out there, and I try to get that information to all my customers, you know, to let them know about heads-up football and all that. And it's really good because they really teach these youth coaches not just how to properly fit equipment, but also the basic how to teach the fundamentals in coaching these kids. And, you know, Peyton was very good at talking about him and Eli. He says every year, even up until he retired, they'd go back to Duke, where David Cutcliffe was. That was their college coach, and you know, and he would work with them in the off seasons between OTAs and stuff. And he said he always start out on how to take a snap and how much the little things matter, and helping his career exist as long as it did. And of course, he said Tony Dungy was a great influence on him and all their players there, and he was just outstanding to listen to.
I know you probably have a couple shout outs or so. I've got one, and I know he'll remember what kind of helmets I'm talking about. And Wayne Hardigan. I saw Becky at the up at the Black Patch after her book club, I think, and she told me that Wayne listens to us. I think they're in Louisville now. I'm not for sure, but he said he listens to us and he talks to us good and bad. So at least he's listening. We appreciate it, Wayne.
We sure do. And of course, I've got a few reps that I boarded the plane with here pretty locally that was going through YouTube and saw me on it, and they'd listen to us every Friday morning. Sloan Allison, he's our Northern Alabama. He played quarterback at Middle Tennessee State University. His dad was a longtime college coach, and he's a rep for us in North Alabama and West Tennessee. And Ryan Consigliano, he's the Nashville rep, and Tim Bish is our youth rep there. And those guys said, "When did you start a radio show?" And they were just searching the web, and somehow I guess they searched my name and it came up, and they said they would be tuning in. A couple of them, of course, Sloan he said, "You gonna tell any of these Vegas stories?" I said, "What goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas." So we don't have very many stories to tell anyway, but we want to give a shout out to those guys, and I'm great to be back again, though. Good to be back in my own bed and home, and we look forward to tonight's game. Of course, this is Football Friday here in Western Kentucky once again, and we've got us a special guest in studio with us. We've got Bradley Stallins, one of the members of the staff at Caldwell County High School, as well as a Hall of Fame inductee for 2017. Welcome to the show, Bradley.
Thanks, Coach. It's good to be here.
You played, matter of fact, with the last week's guest, I believe, Andy Davis.
Yes,
he was on
yes.
with us last week. He was excited about having a son playing in the middle school.
Sure.
And we went and watched him play a couple times, and he looks and acts just like him. I don't know about personally, but stands and his mannerisms and things like that. And he looked like he's going to be a pretty good football player.
He's a good young man. He played JV baseball for us this past year, and he's just a good boy,
Man,
all the way around.
That's a pretty good sized young man to pound the baseball.
He is. He's a good kid.
Bradley, before we get talking a little bit about your career, let's talk a little bit about tonight's game against Henderson County Colonels. They're a 6A school, team that we've been playing in the past several years, and just by looking at some of the scores and the progress, it looks like they're a much improved team.
They are. We watched a lot of film on them, of course, and the new coach there. I think last year was his first year. Before that, he had been at Union County for a year, and then I'm kind of glad he went to Henderson, to be honest. He's done a real good job with them. I was telling Coach Tomic a while ago, they're a shotgun team, but it's still got a lot of wing tee principles. It's a lot of misdirection and pulling guards, and so it's still got a lot of that wing tee principle to it, which it makes you stay disciplined on defense, and you got to stay with what you're coached to do and key to do during the week, and defensively, they've improved. They're getting to the ball. They've got some pretty good outside linebackers. That have done a pretty good job of rushing the quarterback. I know they gave Christian County fits when they played them. Matter of fact, watching that film, they about came back and won that ball game. and maybe should have won the ball game. But that they've improved quite a bit. So
I know from last year, Janie and I went over to Henderson and watched you all play, and are their numbers up anymore this year? A little bit
seems to be. Yeah,
I mean,
it
I
does.
know
It
they didn't
seems to
have
be.
that many numbers for a school that size.
Mhm.
I've never understood it. Ever since back in the day when, what was that one coach's name? He only had about 30 as well, but they did a good job. You remember who I'm talking about?
Mojo Holloway?
No, before, after that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He was kind of controversial coach.
Tom
Duffy?
Yeah,
Tom Duffy.
Duffy,
Tom
yeah,
Duffy. That's right.
He didn't have too many players either, but they always pretty tough.
Won state championships at Danville, and won one at Fort Thomas
I believe
Highlands,
that's
and
right.
then went to Henderson. And of course, his son took over after, he retired,
Yes.
Duffy, and the numbers. He was a pretty hard-nosed coach,
Yeah,
to
I
say
believe
the
so.
least. And you think about Henderson County back in years past. You always think about a physical football team,
Right.
and they always have 2 or 3 scat backs, and they predominantly are a running football
Mm-hmm.
team. So it's going to be a challenge for our defense again. But if there's one thing that we look forward to is putting our defense on.
Right. Our defense has been outstanding. A little bit last week, Crittenden County came out and threw the ball on us, and being the kind of defensive back coach, we kind of had to take that part a little bit personal this week. I had to challenge some kids, and I think they'll respond. I think they'll respond. Crittenden have got a lot better too. They're doing a good job with those kids down there, and they're kind of running the same system we run. But with Henderson County, we didn't play them. When I was in school, we didn't play Henderson County. Matter of fact, we never even scrimmaged them. So we didn't know. I didn't know a lot about Henderson County football, but like you said, I think the last couple of years they had been playing a lot of young kids, and those kids have kind of gotten seasoned and they're coming of age now. They played a lot of sophomores, and now those kids are sophomores and freshmen, and now those kids are juniors and seniors. So they're a lot better. They're a lot better.
We played with several Henderson County graduates when we were at Western, and they had some outstanding high school football players that went on to college and performed well as.
Yeah, sure did. They've always had a lot of good athletes. We won't include Jay.
I was going to say the only one I knew was All-American
We got
Mr.
one
Davis,
living
wasn't
right
it?
here in Princeton, Jay Davis, and of course Leo Peckinpah. And
Well, Lonnie Schuster. A lot of guys play with me.
I
but
played
from
with Barry
Henderson.
Skaggs, Bang Bang. People out there. You're talking about a tough nut. Barry Skaggs was one tough individual, and when we got down close to the goal line, Coach Fikes would insert him into the backfield, and he found that goal line and got us the touchdown. It didn't sit well with some of the other players. But, Bang Bang was an outstanding player for Henderson.
One thing about him, he didn't care either.
No, he didn't.
If they didn't like it, that's too bad.
That's right.
But all you're looking for is to score. If you got people like that on your team that are upset, they might not need to be there anyway.
That's true. That's true.
But like last week, I didn't get to see the first half. I was working, and when I came to watch the second half. But the first couple passes, I asked somebody what happened or what they did, and they said they threw the slants or something in there. Of course, and you all made good adjustments on that. These kids didn't know what they were going to do, but when they started breaking on the ball, it was
right. And our secondary, they're extremely good athletes, and they're football minded, and so we thought we could make adjustments, but Crittenden County did a really good job of throwing timing routes on us, and they did an excellent job. Maybe they just went to that well one too many times, and our kids were able to make some adjustments, and they did, and our kids are competitors. They want to win. They want to compete. They fought back, and we were able to kind of shut that down a little bit.
That's the good thing about it. When they come back.
Right.
When you think years ago, have taught some teams and stuff, and of course, when you don't throw as much as we didn't, we get down 14-0. It was tough.
Right. And Coach Starnes is a good coach. They watched film
He's
on us
always been
too
a
and
good
knew how to
coach.
exploit us, and they do a good job of coaching, and they were ready to
I
play.
was there, and of course, I liked his game plan.
Oh,
He did
yeah.
what he thought he had to do to win the football
Exactly.
game, and the score is no indication of how.
Oh, no.
You look at that score, you said, well, we blew them out.
No, it wasn't.
I thought one of the biggest turning points was the block field goal.
Yes, it was.
And, being able to advance it changed the whole momentum of that football game in the first half because they were pretty much in control.
Oh, they were in control. I mean, when you go back and look at that film, it even knowing the outcome, it's still kind of scary when you go back and see that film, and you think of, maybe,
Well, and numbers mean a lot. It's just you can go back and look last week. Eastern was better than Kentucky, except at the end of the game.
Right.
I mean, that's just the way it goes when you got more players. You have more numbers and come back, put
what
it on.
an outstanding crowd that was over
Oh,
there.
it was a great crowd.
Of course, I've been there for years, and you too, DT, and I've never seen as many fans. Maybe I hadn't, I can't remember even when I coached against them or coached for them, that stadium was as full as it was on Friday night, and the gesture they did for Coach Barnes was just outstanding.
It was, and to see that rivalry become still a rivalry. I mean, obviously, but not as it's got a good spirit to it now. Both communities helping each other out, small communities, and that's kind of neat to see. From guys that coached and then played and now coached in it again, and what they've done. And we've done with school with doing. I think it started several years. May have started when maybe the first year with Coach Starnes or Miss Shelley. One of the two. We did a little thing like this, and they've carried it on ever since. And it's been a great thing to see and watch and be a part of. To be honest, it's just been neat.
Well, when you sell 900 T-shirts, if most of those people go to the game, used to if you had 2,000 at a game, that's a pretty good crowd.
And the money they took up. I think at halftime they gave a dollar figure around 8,000.
It was a little more than 8,000, I believe.
8,000. And they were still taking up money during. I know over on our side
Right.
they were passing the hat, and I'm sure they got quite a bit more. So, just a great gesture on both communities, and it's a great rivalry, and between two close knit communities.
It is.
But we came away with the W, which we needed, and it's on to Henderson County tonight.
Right.
Bradley, let's talk a little bit about your playing career.
All right.
Of course, you graduated in 1998.
Right.
You were starting quarterback for DT for, 3 years?
3 years, yes.
Your sophomore through senior season.
Right.
And you were on some really good football teams.
Very good football teams. Very talented football teams. It was we get together quite a bit, see each other in town and talk and laugh and cut up. But that team, the teams that I played on, they started with the offensive and defensive lines. I mean, we had some really good offensive and defensive lines, and we had some good linebacking cores. When you think about the linebackers that we put on the field over those 3 years, and I mean, we just had some really good football teams all the way around. So.
People that wanted to play.
Right.
That was the thing. You didn't care. They didn't care where they played.
No.
That was the fun part about coaching those kids. They didn't care if they were on the hill or wherever they were going to do the best they could do.
And sometimes we were almost too competitive, at that time. I don't know if there's such a thing, but
we had a few rumbles in practice.
Yeah, one or two.
But that was okay.
It was, we still cared about each other when it was over and loved on each other when it was over. And we understood, that everybody out there wanted to win. And it was fun. There was some fun 4 years there.
Yeah, it was. If somebody was out or missed practice, everybody on the team pretty much want to know why.
Yes, where are you?
It was.
I brought one of them up last week about Andy.
Oh, Lord.
Andy missed on
that
the
Callaway
Thursday
game.
night. Yeah,
I'll never forget. I won't forget that.
Probably one of the most important games we played all season, and they were a really good football.
Yes, they were.
Very
yes, they were.
Football team, and he doesn't show up on Thursday night, for some reason. And of course, we had the city, but I still go back. Those 3 years, probably 96, 97, 98, were just remarkable seasons.
Yes, they were.
And any of the three had a chance to advance, and probably the 96 team. I still say today that was probably one of the overall best football teams we had, but it just shows you how that ball bounces.
Right.
And of course, 97.
Yeah.
We go to Owensboro Catholic. I think was number 1 or 2 in the state.
Right.
And we go down there on their home field in the playoffs, and we lead almost the entire game, all up until the last 3 or 4 minutes, and they found a way to win the game, and it was very disappointing.
Well, it didn't help it. I threw that pass to that defensive end there, standing right there in the flats, and he ran it for a touchdown.
I didn't remember that. That was pretty sorry.
Yeah, I was pretty sorry. You're exactly
I wasn't going to bring that up, but no,
we beat them everywhere that game except on the scoreboard in the end.
Yeah.
And, I remember coming into practice that week, Coach Gates said, I think we're going to put the shotgun in. I said, where's this been for 4 years? But, no, we put that in, and I think Coach Hollowell even made a mention that to you, like how long y'all had this in and not shown it. Didn't you said Monday?
Well, we didn't mind trying something.
No.
If something wasn't going clicking good, we didn't mind change.
That's right.
We experimented with a lot of different formations, and anything we felt like that kids would enjoy, and change is good in a lot of ways. Sometimes it backfires on you, but we just gave outstanding efforts, and your play through those years was outstanding, and I can go back on several games. I remember most about you is your competitiveness, and you hated to lose.
Yes.
And I mean, there was times that you got a hold of a few people, and try to, and that's the quarterback's job. Is to be that leader out there. And, you did a great job of directing our teams, and it's shown off in your coaching abilities as well. You've been very successful head baseball coach here at Caldwell County, and went into back-to-back regional titles, and even playing for the state Class A championship last year. And, you're just an outstanding young man, and we're very fortunate to have you here.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for those kind words. But y'all taught me a long time ago, you're only as good as the people that are around you.
Well, that makes a difference.
And that makes a huge difference. And
your coaches and players.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes a difference.
That's right. And we talked about this a lot, and you reminisce, especially when you're from here, and it's I don't know. I kind of get emotional when you talk about this. Growing up and. You grow up in a family that's from here, and your dad played ball, and they kind of, and you see those pictures of him wearing, the blue and gold uniform, and I guess from the time I was born, he had one of those, not probably one of those old helmets, maybe a little younger than what you're talking about, but he always. I guess he stuck it in my room from the time I was born, and it was the white one with the blue tiger on it, and it had the Mark Duper face mask on it.
Yeah, that's it.
And,
do you still have that helmet?
I still have that helmet.
Bring it to Coach Dominic. Maybe he'll.
That's not it. No. Hey, I'm gonna get the word on what they're called, and Jay Davis could tell you right now. He needs to call me and tell me what it's called. Because I had to wear one at Western just like it. My first year. Yes, sir.
But, you go back through all those years, and, it is special. And you look and you grow up, and your mom and dad takes you to ball games on Friday nights and high school baseball games. Where I grew up, they still play baseball the same place, but I could walk across the bridge there at the creek and go watch. And, they take you to those games, and you see people like, Wayne McGowan and, those guys playing, and Ben Van Hoosier and Mark Hooks and all those guys, and Brian Jaggers and those guys, they were in high school and I was in middle school. You look up to those guys, and they carried the torch. And when it's your turn to carry the torch, you carried the torch. And now when you look back, it's a rich history. And it was before us. And it'll be after us. And
I was lucky enough to play here and go to college and play a little bit. But when you mention those names, just coaching those guys, it kind of gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because I coached all of them too. And they were anybody that would play football and give us the time they give to put in that effort and call you coach. I never thought about that, but it means a lot.
It really
now as you get older, for sure, it means a lot.
Yeah, and outweighing the coaching is the relationships you build.
Yes.
And coaches with players, players with players, and just with the communities and all. A lot of great stories come out, and a lot of great memories.
It is.
Even some of the worst seasons you go through, you still build those relationships, and excuse me, but you never give up.
No.
And we appreciate you, Bradley. I was going to ask you one question: is there one game or one play or anything that stands out in your playing career that comes to mind that you think about quite often?
Don't bring up things that I said to you. I
won't do
anybody
that.
Know that.
There's a couple, I mean, yes, there's a couple, and you go through, and Lord, not mention them all, you can't. We had such a good time. It was such a good experience. But I do remember my sophomore year, we were getting ready. We had just lost to Todd County, and that was the first game I started as a sophomore, and I played awful. And we come back and play Marshall County, and Marshall County had either just beat Mayfield or played them really, really tough.
They beat them.
And they had some hosses. And I remember looking at that film, and I thought, oh, Lord. And we had worked on a pass all week, and I threw it, and guy picks it off, and I come back over there, and we go back out and run it again. Well, the same thing happened. I thought, I'll be dang, I ain't throwing this one to the flat. So I hurled it. And I hurled it, and I was trying to throw the dang thing out of bounds. And Robert Shaw made that diving catch in the back of the end zone, and we ended up winning that ball game. And I was trying to throw it where either it was out of bounds and nobody could catch it, or I was just and he made an unbelievable catch. And I think it was in the newspaper. I think Todd or somebody had got the picture of him diving and making that catch. And that kind of, I think that game kind of turned some things around, because that would have been the 95 team. We weren't really expected to do a lot. And we ended up making the playoffs, and I think we upset Breckenridge Camp. Boy, we went down there, and it was cold. Was that where were we at? It was in the middle of nowhere, but it was cold, man. It was cold.
Breckenridge County.
And we went down there and upset them in the first round.
I believe that was Gerald Fuqua freshman year.
Yes, it was.
And he didn't get to play much against Todd County.
No, he didn't.
And then the next week was his breakout.
I think he had over 100 yards that game.
He did. And, Marshall County had a really good.
Yes,
they went to
did.
the semifinals.
Yes,
that
they
year.
did.
Got beat by St. X
Mm-hmm.
down there, and we, of course, they opened up the season. I think they beat Mayfield, Heath, beat them.
Yes.
And we beat them. They were 0-3 and didn't lose another game until.
Boy, they were some hard-nosed. Coach Shelton had some hard-nosed football teams.
Jim
didn't he?
Shelton.
Goodness
They
gracious.
were. Of course, we go back to Marshall County.
Of course, Jim Shelton was a Mayfield guy. He grew up, so he knew what to do.
He and Doc Sanders both.
Yeah,
I believe one of his sons was on that team. Wasn't he that big tight end? Oh, he was a big old rascal.
He was. They had a really good football.
What were we doing playing teams like that?
I don't know. Well, one thing, if we had an advantage, it was probably in the speed department. We always had a Wayne McGowan or a Gerald Fuqua or someone that could outrun most all of them on that team. And you just had to big play those type of people.
Right. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of memories, and I'll never forget. I think you always remember your last game.
Oh yeah.
And when we got beat, I've still never watched that film. Never will watch that film. I never watched it after it was over. Don't ever plan on watching it again. But I remember sitting on the steps, and you was crying, and I remember Big Bob Hudson, taking that lap around that field. His last game as a Tiger, and it was, and it meant a lot to those guys that played. Derek Perkins and Jason Morris, and all those seniors that played. So
I remember Derek. He picked up a fumble.
He did. His brother still said, "Boy, if you had any of that Perkins speed, you'd have scored."
Yeah.
But I hope he's listening. I hope Derek's listening. But no, it was. We had a great time, and it's great memories. And that's what you said is so true. It's the relationships, and you all will always be coach to us and coach to me, and I can't ever thank y'all enough. And even the other coaches, Coach Scott and Coach Mr. Beavers and Mike Johnson, and all the coaches that we've ever had that instilled life lessons in us, not just winning and losing, but life lessons that we take with us today. And
well, we feel the same way. We were lucky to be here and be together. Gator and I have been together a long time, even when he was in high school at Christian County. His coach, Craig Clayton, was my roommate in college, and we brought about 7 or 8 guys back during the summer.
You did.
And stayed over there for 2 or 3 days, for a week, and coached while y'all were practicing, warming up before we went back.
My junior year.
So I've known him a long time, and we've argued and cussed and carried on a lot, but we're still hanging in there.
And you guys that came down that summer made a big influence. I wanted to be just like y'all, and I wanted to go to Western Kentucky because I saw the relationships that they built there. And, of course, we talk about Jay a lot. Jay was on that staff at that time.
Yeah.
He was a grad assistant under Coach Romeo Cornell. And, I can remember going up for my official visit and walking out with Jay. And I said, man, this is where I want to come. And, Of course, it was a little different back then.
Yeah.
You know, the way that you didn't have Twitter or to announce where you wanted to go, but you could sign early. I think
Right.
it was in December back then. But those are great relationships, and you never forget them.
No.
And you know, the people that you run into over your lifetime, you know, it just.
Well, you know, even now, those old coaches, you know, the coaches' families, they're still close. Like Coach G's family and
yeah.
Coach Davis's.
They all go out.
You
and
know,
eat
they're
together,
all,
yeah.
and that was amazing to us growing up. You know, we laugh all the time. You know, Mr. Davis come to practice, and we'd have that
Oh,
camp,
yeah.
and he'd be in your face with that
Oh,
cigar.
yeah.
Now, Brad, and I thought, man, Mr. Davis, I'm about to die, and you blowing that cigar smoke in
He
my
can tell
face.
you what to do.
But you know, it's just special. You know, you look back now, and it is. It's just absolutely
and it was special to him.
Yes.
You know,
was.
that means a
And
lot.
so, you know, you still see all those, and you know that's unique. You know, you look back at Caldwell County, we hadn't had that many head coaches in a long history. You know, it's been stability, and that's I think that's been part of our success. So.
Well, Bradley, we sure appreciate you taking time out, coming in this morning, and sharing these experiences with us. And we appreciate Christy Phelps for letting
Yes,
you off from teaching
I
this
do.
morning
I
as
do
well.
too.
So we will give a shout out to Christy, and we know you got to get back in the
Well, thank you.
classroom. And best of luck to you and the
Thank you, Coach.
Tigers tonight against the Henderson County Colonels. We've been talking to Bradley Stallings, assistant football coach and inductee into the Caldwell County Football Hall of Fame. You're listening to Tiger Sports Talk on 103.3 FM, The Tiger.
New car buyers, listen up. We need to move our new car and truck inventory fast, and we need your trade. At Trice Hughes Incorporated, we know the dollar is tight, but there's never been a better time to buy a new vehicle. With fantastic rebates, low rates, awesome trade allowance, and 7 American car lines to choose from, Trice Hughes Incorporated is sure to fit you with the perfect vehicle at a price that's pleasing. And as always, if we don't have what you want on our lot, we'll find it for you. Don't go out of town for a good deal. Stay in town for a great deal. Trice Hughes Incorporated, where your trade is worth more. It's that time of year again. Soon leaves will be falling. Football and deer season is right around the corner. When those little critters get stirring around, sometimes our vehicles get in their way. When that happens, Trice Hughes Incorporated hopes you remember our body shop to get you back on the road. We offer free estimates, 3-stage paint process that is guaranteed as long as you own your vehicle, and certified technicians that together offer 120 years of combined experience. We keep rental vehicles readily available, so even if your car is out of commission, you don't have to be. Trice Hughes Incorporated, Highway 91 North in Princeton. Trice Hughes in Princeton would like to give a big shout out to one of our own, Jeff McDowell. Jeff has given Trice Hughes 34 years as one of our top service technicians, and General Motors thinks so also, as they selected Jeff in the top 20 service technicians out of over 7,000 in the Southeast region. We are so proud of you, Jeff. The extra time and dedication it takes to achieve this honor speaks volumes about him. Trice Hughes Incorporated offers top-notch service on all your GM and Chrysler vehicles by certified technicians Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Call 270-365-5522 for your appointment today. Trice Hughes Incorporated, Highway 91 North in Princeton.
Appreciate y'all coming in.
Back here at Tiger Sports Talk at 103.3 FM, The Tiger, with DT and Gator. We got 2 very special guests in studio with us this morning. Before we get into the introduction, I want to say a little bit about our middle school football game last night. Our 7th and 8th grade team took on Trigg County. Our 7th grade won 36-20 over the Wildcats, or Midcats. I believe they're called Midcats. And our 8th grade suffered their second loss of the season to Trigg County by the score of 26-18. And it was the homecoming game as well. And congratulations go out to Miss Addie Vincent on being named the homecoming queen. So we have here in the studio with us the voice of the Tigers. We got Dennis Stevens, the play-by-play, and Bob Hayes on with the stats. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for that, DT.
No problem. Glad you're here. We enjoy listening to you when we're not around, and you all keep up with it a lot better than we could. There's no way we'd be looking here and looking there and talking about something else. I don't know how people do that. I really don't.
Well, let me just say, you two guys do an outstanding job, and we're very blessed and fortunate to have you on the air here. And, you know, people's asked, you and DT do the radio show or talk show, y'all do any play-by-play? And I would say, no, I don't think I could handle the play-by-play.
We couldn't even do that coaching.
No,
could
we couldn't. No, we couldn't. And, there could be some choice words come
Well,
out
yeah.
over the air, and I think WPKY may, there'd be some strict guidelines we'd have to follow, and I don't know if we could handle that.
We appreciate the comments, but we have a ball. We really do. It's a lot of fun to do that.
Well, it would have to be to keep doing it. I'm telling you, because that's a dedication thing. You go every Friday night, no matter where it's here or there. You go and do it, and that's tough to do. I mean, they've asked Gator and I to go do a couple things, and he's either doing something or I'm doing something. Here we're both retired, we're probably not doing anything, but it's hard to set yourself and do something like that all the time.
It's been a great ride for me. I had no idea 5 years ago I'd even be anywhere near a microphone, especially after retirement, but it just kind of worked out. It fell into place. I did an interview with Darren Smiley when we had an exchange student living with us, Alessandro, and my first experience with the radio, and it went well. And later on, after that season was over, before the next basketball season started, he asked me would I come and help him do basketball. I thought to myself, well, I'm not doing anything, so I'll give it a shot and see how that works out. And one thing's led to another. It was basketball, then it was baseball, now it's football. And Dennis has had radio experience his whole life, so working with him has really been a pleasure, and just learning the little nuances from Darren Smiley, and that's been really something 5 years ago I would never have dreamed I'd be doing this.
Dennis, tell us a little bit about your experience. I know you started back at an early age.
Well, I got into radio from a teacher named Patsy Oliver. Used to teach typing at the junior high. Mm-hmm. And I typed an introduction of a Chicago DJ as a typing project. And she said, what is this? And I told her about it. And she said, do you have interest in that? And I said, yeah, I think it would be fun. Next thing I know, she talked to Twyman Boren, and I had a Saturday afternoon job at the radio station. So it's kind of built from there.
Yeah, we worked with Patsy, and if she was teaching you in the 7th grade, you're trying to tell your age right now.
Well, you guys not only do football, Bob, you mentioned basketball and baseball, and you even do soccer, Dennis, and I don't have we've done some volleyball. I think Sue Stone's done a little bit of volleyball for us, so you think you probably want to expand even a little bit more?
I could expand into volleyball maybe, but soccer, I can't even use the term icing on the soccer field.
Yeah.
That's the hockey term that I've watched a little hockey in my life, but soccer is just follow the ball and try to figure out how you want your listener to know where that ball is. I don't think I can do that like Dennis has done that and does it pretty well when I listened to him this year and last year on that. But
Of course,
I'm not a soccer man.
Bob, when you and I were growing up, and I'm going to say you and I because I'm a little younger than you are, but what we have, 3 sports?
Yes.
Football, baseball, and basketball, and
That
girls
was it.
had none. Is that right?
That is correct.
Cheerleading. And so,
And
soccer,
band.
it's just
And band.
and
where-
band. That's
where
right.
the girls went.
That's why the band was completely full too, because the ones that didn't participate in sports went to the band. But anyway,
Well, football and baseball, to me, would be the 2 hardest ones to cover because of the time lapse. But now, the way football is, everybody's playing so fast, you don't have time in between plays. We're right. There's no huddling up in 30 seconds in between plays and finding things to talk about. You're right back at the line of scrimmage, ready for the next play. So, those are some of the changes that's occurred over the last several years.
one of my favorite parts of football was the huddle.
Yeah.
Now that's extinct. They don't even do that anymore.
Yeah,
And
by
of course,
far, soccer I think is the hardest to do because of so many changes of possession, and it's just constantly going, no timeouts, nothing. So I think that's the hardest. But
and I would have no idea when they're offsides. I mean, I don't know how
you'd be like
anybody.
most officials.
You'll know when that red card's held up.
Oh,
There's
okay.
something bad's happening when red comes up.
That's
so.
right. But I watched my first volleyball game. You mentioned that. The Lady Tigers just demolished Murray this week. First time I've been to one. So, yeah, that would be fun to do. But you've got the girls volleyball team in the All-A starting tonight. You've got the girls soccer team won the regular season district championship last night with a win over Hopkins Central, and then the success that the football team is doing now. It's just a great time to be in Caldwell County in sports.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you, especially, and Bob too. But we just mainly are old football guys, and we need to have more people talking about the other sports. And we appreciate you coming on this morning because you're a part of all of it. You know, you do that.
It's been particularly interesting to me to have done the baseball the last couple of years and have our guys win the second region tournament, then go to the state tournament in Lexington, and also this All-A Classic that we just should have won it this year, but we won't get into the reasons and whys and hows on that. But that's, and growing up, living on a farm, living on a place where we raised 10 acres of tobacco, we didn't get to town very often. And Bill and I, my twin brother, had that hoe in our hands just about every day, and pocket knife when we came to topping the tobacco. And so for entertainment, I'd listen to any radio show I could, which had baseball, basketball. At one time in my life, I could name the starting lineup for the Nashville Vols AAA team of the Cincinnati Reds. That's how involved I was, and maybe leads to, I still think I have a pretty good memory, although it's fading a little bit. But just listening to football, basketball, and baseball on radio, I learned how the vocabulary went. I learned how they interacted with the other announcer. And baseball, I think, is my best sport because I follow that game religiously. I'm a Cardinal diehard fan.
Yeah, from here, St. Louis from here was big.
Probably watch anytime I can that game, and I'm one of the few people, I think, in this town that can watch a game from start to finish and not be bored.
I picture Bob with as a kid with a scorebook sitting there at the radio at night scoring those books.
I used to do the basketball UK games that way.
And when they gave the stats at the end of the game, he'd say, they're wrong. You know, he had them right. But, you know, radio, I remember as a kid, too, you listened to all sports on the radio, you know, back then. But I'll never forget listening to Arlington when they won the state. I knew all those guys by name, and who in the world would have known Arlington from me, you know, over here. But you knew the names of the guys that were playing. Justin Sharp, I'll never forget him, and there's a couple others, and they won the state that night.
Is that Harry Todd's team?
I believe so. And I sit there and remembered all that, and I thought, nowadays I look at myself and think, what in the world were you doing?
Well, I listened to the 98. I wasn't able to make the trip when we won the football championship. I was at work. There's nothing like listening to a championship game on the radio. The announcer, you know, I forget, I don't know, it might have been Bridgie.
No. It was Tom and Dennis.
Tom and Dennis, okay, yeah.
Dennis had to get him up those steps.
And Tom was scared to death of heights.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so,
Really?
But that was fantastic to hear that game on the radio.
Well, I tell
A lot
you,
of fun.
it is, and I can relate back to my childhood listening to Harry Carey and Jack Buck. Those were two of my favorites for the St. Louis Cardinals.
I grew up listening to Harry and Jack.
I can remember sitting out there with a baseball bat and rocks, and every time
That's right.
Tim McCarver come up to bat, I was swinging. He was left-handed, and so was I. So, you know, it's amazing what radio has done carrying games, and especially to the people here in this community that are unable to attend. You know, you feel like you're right there.
It's been a blessing, certainly, to have had this radio station kept alive and to be able to do this service and get the people that this means a lot to into their homes on a Friday night, whatever the nights may be. And I'm, as I say, my last 5 years in this particular pursuit has really been worthwhile and self-satisfying.
I know it was almost like I was stalking Bridgie and Danny Beavers for a while, trying to see when they're going to retire so I could try to get a shot at this. So we were with Danny at a gathering down at the park down by the railroad. And I said, when are you going to retire, Danny? I said, when you're 90, when are you guys going to give it up? He said, this is the last year. So I said, well, all right. I started planting the seed then, trying to get in touch with who was at the radio station. And then all of a sudden, after that season, the radio station was going to close. And I said, well, that's my luck. I said, I waited 50 years to get it. Now they're going to close up. But fortunately, it's held on, and And we got a chance to do this, and we've added the live stream, which I think has added a lot. You see a few stations doing it, but I think that's added a lot to the enjoyment that people have in the county getting to watch the Tigers now on Friday night, especially on a 2-hour trip somewhere like Hardin County or something.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, the quality of the HD has really, I mean, watching it on TV, it's just like being there. DT made the comment a couple of weeks ago. He thought he was watching NBC, one of the...
I thought the Packers were playing with the gold helmets and all. I said, man, that can't be called out.
And, I mean, the way
the
camera worked by, you know, your people, and, of course, Ty's big into that. And,
that's right.
Yeah, that is Ty doing that.
Well, and he kept up, you know, with the ball. He's been around sports enough to know that you don't just leave the camera there and let the guy run back here and then throw it and you just sitting there. And honestly, I was going to give you another comment. You did show the score a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, some people, we watched the game last year or year before, whatever, and I never knew the score.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you didn't tell it, but I'm just saying, you know, every now and then when time out, shoot the score.
I don't have a mic, but I just want to say, I can hear that I'm getting picked up, but Bob and Dennis, I mean, this is they go through a full week of prep, too, for this stuff. So it's not like they just show up and roll in there. I mean,
They're not like us.
That's right. They really prepare so that they bring a quality broadcast to this. So, I mean, there's some work to it, and I appreciate that for these guys going there because, you know, they work hard during the week to be ready for that broadcast. So I appreciate that.
The other thing I might add here, Pat, DT, that I don't know whether I was promoted to the radio booth or demoted to the radio booth, but prior to that, I was on the chain gang for about 24, 25 years. Really enjoyed that with Fred Foltz, Philip Sisk, Jerry Perkins, and every now and then as a fill-in. And Free Baby, on one occasion, I worked with Free Baby, and just to have that opportunity to go upstairs, really, I had to mull that over. I really enjoyed the sidelines, especially the years that my son played, and I was down there listening to the opposing coaches rant and rave and carry on when things weren't going their way, and that happened on several occasions in that 96, 97, 98 years and all that. But it's been fun going up and doing football. I've really had a great time. Missed the boys down on the chain gang. Missed the banter back and forth with what Philip does with some of the officials down there.
You wasn't working with one of our dear friends, Dog Childress.
Dog preceded me. I think I came in the year that Dog had the blow up with Christian County.
Surely not. Dan Goble comes over to me and says, "You got a chain gang member over there flashing you signals of what we're running." Like, I couldn't even see across the field, much less tell what they were running.
That's great.
No, I think I was 1 or 2 years after Gary, and I heard about that, and that's still chain gang talk when I was 10 years, 15 years further down the road.
I tell you what, though, you mentioned the chain gang. That from being a coach for 30 years with him and or anywhere ever, that is something that when you have dedicated people to do that, that is one less thing off your mind. You know, I know when we had all these little games, if you'll see, they've got all their 7th grade kids or whoever running the chains because you don't have anybody to do it. That is a chore.
Or running the clock. You know,
yeah, exactly.
How fortunate are we to have Johnny Stone, you know, to run the clock as many years as he's ran it. And
I mean, that's automatic. When you got a home game, he's going to be there.
Those people are behind the scenes, and they don't get very much publicity at all, and they're very important to the game management. And
I was proud to be a part of game support. That was the whole thing that I could say, well, I'm part of game support, and you know, go Tigers.
Yeah.
Dennis, you had a son that played soccer, right?
Yeah, so and daughter.
And what was his name?
Riley.
I had Riley in school, but I couldn't remember his name.
And then Cortland, because Cortland had Bradley Stallins, and every time I see Bradley, I think about this. She had him in class, and they would argue back and forth a little bit about football and soccer.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
And I think the one thing she says she finally was able to shut Bradley up and stun him for a few seconds when she came back with a line, said, "Yeah, but at least in soccer we don't play for 6 seconds and then take 30 seconds off."
Well, see, back in the day when I first started playing, moved back to Princeton. Of course, old Chick Walker, he was assistant principal down there. And of course, this is a football town, and they hadn't even had soccer yet.
Right.
You know, once they started, and Chick always say, "Well, they're gonna play kickball tonight."
That's what
You know,
Brandon
'cause
was
that's all.
doing.
But anyway, it's come a long way. Let me tell you, boys, girls, middle school, it doesn't matter now.
I was wanting to ask you, is there one memorable moment or game that stands out in your mind?
Absolutely, but one on the field and one off the field. We talked about some of the friendships with Crittenden County. You guys mentioned it earlier. The night that D. Kane got hurt on the sideline, you didn't know how bad it was. But after the game, there was a prayer circle that went from the 20 to the 20 on that field. And I still remember the picture of that and looking down at that. But on the field, it had to be that Hail Mary that Elizabethtown threw to beat us in that playoff game. I think I remember saying, "I don't believe what I just saw."
Well, I believe you. I would have said the same thing or a little worse. But
Well, that was disappointing to have that game won and know what was going to come and to see the ball in the air and think we've got a player in the area to defend it,
Right.
knock it down, whatever, and have that ball. When that ball went 2 feet over that young man's head, I thought, oh my goodness! And then it was.
I mean, the
hauled in.
game was over.
It was
Yeah,
over.
really,
It
yeah.
had run down to 0.
But it's never over till it's over. Isn't that what they say?
It's never over
Exactly.
until it's over.
Me. I wish you hadn't brought that up. I remember that too.
Yeah.
I wasn't coaching, luckily, but
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Not being on
Those
the
are
radio.
bad memories.
Not being on the
No,
radio.
Good memories, celebration memories.
At that time, that game with Danville for the '98
Willie
state
Brown.
championship was
you better
Hughes.
get to work, Willie.
Sitting in the stands watching that game and watching our kids compete and not quitting. I went into that stadium that day. Mayfield played first. I thought, well, Western Kentucky's going to get a victory for sure today because Mayfield's going to win. They end up getting blown out by Middlesboro, 38-0 or something like that. And then when Danville comes onto the field, 70, 80 strong, and all of them look 6'4" and 250. And I thought, well, this is not going to be good for us. So
I kept telling them, don't look down there at them in pregame. Just look at yourself. Don't look at them. They look like a college team.
You
They
told
really
all
did.
27 of ours?
Yeah. We had about 32 on the team,
okay.
I think. But
I've
yeah,
always wondered I know we were nervous, or I do. I get nervous before any game just about, but a big game like that especially. You want to be right and give the right information, but on the field, what's going through a coach's head in a state championship game?
true. Well, I'll tell you.
You can ask him.
I was shocked to begin with when we walked in, and Mayfield was playing, as you mentioned, Middlesboro, and we were walked right in front of their stands, and they gave us a standing ovation. Mayfield. It's the only time I can remember Mayfield pulling for Caldwell County.
Yeah.
Normally, but that's the. I mean, that was cool, and our kids recognized that, and of course they were waving back to them, and that was a great feeling before we even put our uniform on, and I mean, you're just wanting. I just kept telling the kids, keep it close to the fourth quarter. I said, if we have one advantage, I think we're in better physical condition than they are, and the weather was perfect. For a December day, it was in the 60s, I think. Short sleeve weather, and of course they jumped out big on us. I knew we were in trouble on our first possession. We had the ball 4th and 1 from midfield and decided to go for it. And Stuart Childress was, of course, our quarterback and probably the strongest kid we had on the team. We run a quarterback sneak. He loses 3 yards on a quarterback sneak. And I said, oh, Lord. Larry, you got anything to hold them with? And, of course, they had some outstanding backs, and they had a good team. But, man, it was just like in the fourth quarter, I can't believe this is happening, And it's like deja vu happening, and it just was meant to be, I guess.
Well, we kept it close until halftime. I know they go out to a 14-0 lead, one of those touchdowns being, I think, a long run.
Yeah.
And we score right before the half on a pass, go in at 14-7. And at that time, we weren't down 35-0.
it could have been.
Right.
We were in it.
And started to make some defensive plays to hold them at bay, and then they would come into the third quarter. We get it tied on another pass, I think. We're 14-14, and they kind of edge back ahead of us, and then we get into that all-important fourth quarter where they make the key mistake on that fourth down punt. Yeah, we just eat them up from that point on.
You know, you asked that question about what's going through your mind as a coach or head coach or whatever. I'm sure Pat feel the same way. Honestly, when you're there at the game, you really don't. You know, the atmosphere is different, but the game's the same.
Yeah.
But you don't want to lose because of the kids. It's not, you know, you for the coaches. Now some of them might be different, but I promise you we weren't. We weren't. You know, big deal. We'd already been to college. We played football. Our uppity had already gone. You know, we wanted something for the kids.
You know, in 1985, I had, of course, an opportunity at Crittenden County, and you just don't believe. You know, you think you get one chance. How many coaches, especially at age 28? I was 28 years old, and I'll never forget this. We were playing Paintsville, and Walter Brew was the head coach at Paintsville. And before the game, he walks over to me, and of course we shake hands, and he says, "Hey, young feller," called me young feller. He said, "How old are you?" And I said, "I'm 28 years old," like that. And he said, "I've been a head coach longer than you've been alive, and I've never won a state championship." And he was one of the all-time, winningest coaches in Kentucky football history. And of course, I thought at that time, does he just want us to lay down and let him win this? I said, these kids come here, we came here to win, And again, deja vu. We were behind the whole ball game, and Dennis Hodge returns a punt for a touchdown, and next thing you know, turns the whole momentum of the game, and we hold on for a win. And I thought, how lucky can you be, to win one, much less two? And I mean, it's just like deja vu all over again. And I'm asked that question numerous occasions. Those two teams I had, both those state champions, they were a lot of similarities in both of them. Same amount of seniors I had, very good students of the game. I mean, they were just an intelligent group, and I mean, just their closeness and the camaraderie that we had together. I mean, it's very special, and it will be for a lifetime. So.
Well, you see that passed down through Coach Barnes, and I got a chance to do Saturday morning quarterback last week with Coach Barnes, and we talked at length about the friendship he has with Crittenden County and the things they've done. And it seems like it's always when there's adversity or even tragedy, like last year.
Right. The
way these two teams get together, and I told him at the end, I think it's indicative of what Coach Starnes and himself instilled in the programs where they're at. And I think everything starts with those two guys, and we had to give a lot of credit to Coach Barnes for the way he handled things.
Yeah, Coach Barnes is he doesn't go get out a lot, and he doesn't run around and talk to a whole lot of people, but I've never heard another coach say anything bad about him.
Nothing but
ever.
And I was at the Rydell convention this past week, and one of his dear friends asked about him, Bart Hallam, Coach Jake Hallam's son, and he's had a long-time relationship with David, and the first person he asked about was Coach Barnes, and it's just, I mean, those are things that you never forget, and of course, great friend of ours, Craig Clayton's been coaching for a long time, and he's been to 4 state championships, 2 in Kentucky and 2 in Tennessee, and he's come away empty, and of course we're hoping that he gets one before he retires, but he calls himself, he laughs, nobody's got a better disposition than Craig Clayton. He said, I'm the Marv Levy of high school football coaching. And, look at Marv Levy, been to 4 Super Bowls and, never won one. But it takes a lot of luck. It does. It takes a lot of luck, and, and we're just blessed. That's all you can say. Any closing comments here, Ty?
Just we're looking forward to a great game tonight. We're heading out about 3:30 or so. And
people don't realize that, do they?
What's that?
Leaves 3:30.
Well,
They think the game's at 7, and
Where y'all going
everybody
to
has
stop
to
and
take
eat?
care.
I know all radio
Oh,
now.
yeah, that's on the schedule.
Do y'all
somewhere.
talk about that on?
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, you have to talk about it.
Look at these bellies.
DT's brought me my donut, and I'm thinking about what I'm gonna have for lunch, and then what I'm gonna have with these guys.
When I tune in to over on WHOP to check on Christian County's games and Todd Hamilton and Mike Felton, all they talk about is where they eat. They love going to Owensboro and eating at the Moonlight, and they, you know, but that's part of it. I mean, you've got to have a good meal.
Yeah, you can't call a game on empty stomach.
No, you sure can't.
That means I'm gonna have a really early dinner tonight, maybe around 2:30, because going into these games, announcing like baseball, I don't want to eat. I just want to have something there liquid-wise in case it gets tight in the throat
There you go.
area. That
It's gonna be pretty warm. I mean, it's been nice tonight, 63, but.
even on the chain gang, I couldn't eat because I was up and down the field, and I just didn't want a full stomach.
It was just like you're playing, isn't it?
Exactly.
I'm telling you, I was saying before the games, I didn't want anything to eat.
Well, guys, we sure appreciate you coming in this morning, and once again, we want everyone to tune in to WPKY tonight. If you can't make it to Henderson, view it online. Listen to Dennis Stevens and Bob Hayes for the play-by-play of the Caldwell County Tigers and the Henderson County Colonels.
And watch the camera of Ty Englebright.
And watch Ty. Go ahead, Ty.
Well, I just want to make sure we wish our girls up in Northern
Oh,
Kentucky,
yes.
volleyball girls.
Oh,
good
yes.
luck up there, and congratulations to our Lady Tigers soccer team last night as well.
All of our congratulations go out to all of our Caldwell County athletes.
Yes.
And is the All-A girls golf tournament this weekend? Is that?
I don't know.
No, I think that was last weekend. I think.
Oh, was it?
I think
See, I
so.
missed it.
Yep.
I've been gone so long. I'm behind.
Campbell, I think.
Campbell, no.
Yeah, Brandy sent me the score. I think she carded an 89 in there, and I think the girl that won it smoked the course. Or
Did I see also where Cullen?
Yeah, Cullen was in.
He was in.
Check out Todd's paper.
He was playing in Bowling Green, and
Yeah.
I didn't know if that's where they had
He's
it or
finished
not.
sixth.
I think it was.
Yeah, it was finished sixth, and that's Codd's got a good write-up on that in Wednesday's paper.
Okay.
We got to get our boy Cullen back down here.
Yeah.
You know, he was a great guest
he was a
last
good
year, and, you know, they'll be starting the state golf tournament here before too long. And a lot going on. So we
Yep.
want to thank all of our listeners and viewers for tuning in again this morning. You've been listening to Tiger Sports Talk with Gator and DT on 103.3 FM, The Tiger.
Trice Hughes in Princeton would like to give a big shout out to one of our own, Jeff McDowell.